Welcome to tonight's forum featuring the candidates running for Caldwell City Council seats 4, 5, and 6. I'm Scott McIntosh, editor of the Idaho Press Tribune. Let me start by introducing the candidates. Running for seat 4, we have Henry Bussey and Shannon Ozuna. Running for seat 5, we have Chris Allgood and Magda Ruano. For seat 6, Terrence Biggers and Chuck Stoddick. Tonight's forum is the second of two forums being presented by the Idaho Press Tribune, KBOI-TV, the Nampa Chamber of Commerce, and the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce. Last night, we hosted a candidates forum for Nampa City Council. Our format for tonight will include 1-minute opening statements from each candidate. We're also handing out note cards. If you'd like to ask a question of the candidates, please write it down and get it over to Bill Punkany. You can raise your hand, Bill. After our opening statements, I and Scott Logan from KBOI-TV will be asking a series of questions for each race on a rotating basis. For each question, one candidate in each race will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question, and the other candidate will have 1 minute for a rebuttal. You will hear some of the same questions more than once, as we will be rotating the questions around to give other candidates an opportunity to answer those questions. Monitoring the time will be Idaho Press Tribune opinion page editor Phil Bridges. He will hold up a sign to alert you when there are 15 seconds left in your time, and again when time has expired. So please keep an eye on Phil and please respect the time limits. We will begin with opening statements. We'll go from left to right, starting with candidates for seat 4. We will start with Henry Bussey. You have 1 minute.
Good evening. In my usual salutation, for those of you who know me, cheers, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, KBOI, and the Press Tribune, and all of you, those of you who showed up this evening. I am Henry Bussey. I have lived in Caldwell for 66 years and have had a Caldwell address for 76 years. I have worked at Bennett Machine for approximately 60 years, currently semi-retired, and have been co-owner and manager for 40 years. About 50 years ago, a friend and I started building home-built airplanes. By 1967, we had built most of 3, and during that time and shortly after, I became president of the local Experimental Aircraft Association, Chapter 103, then in Boise.
Time. Shannon Ozuna, 1 minute.
Pardon.
Good evening. My name is Shannon Ozuna. I have lived in Caldwell all my life. I love this town. I've been on city council for 12 years. I have a wonderful husband, 3 awesome children, and 2 beautiful grandchildren. I have been a dental assistant for 36 years, and I love the opportunity to take care of people. That's kind of what I really enjoy. My other passion is this city. Currently, I'm working in a Boise office, and I can't tell you how many times I'm sweet talking Caldwell, because I just think we have done some amazing things here. It's only getting better and better, and I would appreciate your vote. I honestly do adore this community and all the things that are going on currently.
One minute.
Thank you, and thank you for coming tonight. There's a quote that goes that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, I have truly loved working for Caldwell. There has definitely been some days I felt like I was working, even though I loved it. But most of all, I've had a huge privilege to represent Caldwell for many years. I am very proud of what Caldwell has accomplished. I really believe that we've been successful, and I'm privileged to be a part of it. I grew up here. My mother and father, my mother was a court clerk, my father worked at the hospital. I Me and my brother and sister attended Gem State Academy. I worked on farms all through high school until I got old enough to start at the police department. And I spent 30 years there. My wife, Alicia, and I are now raising our kids here. We are committed to Caldwell. This is our home, and I will do the best I can for this community. Thank you.
Magda Ruano, 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Magda Ruano. I have been married to my husband, Salomon Ruano, for 20 years. We have one daughter, Belen. She's 9 years old, and she goes to Lincoln School here in Caldwell. And I was born in Mexico, and I came to the U.S. when I was 4 years old with my parents, who migrated legally here to the U.S. I became a citizen when I was about 14 years old. And I went through the Caldwell school system. I came to Caldwell when I was about 8 or so, and so I went through most of the Caldwell school system. I graduated from Caldwell High, and then I went on to Boise State University, where I earned a bachelor's degree in business administration. The bulk of my work experience has been, I worked for the city of Caldwell for 24 years, always in the finance department, and I currently serve on the board of trustees for the Caldwell Public Library. Thank you.
Terrence Biggers, 1 minute.
Thank you for hosting this forum tonight. I also want to thank everybody for showing up tonight and having an interest in who your candidates are. Umpteen years ago, I'm only 39 now, I was raised in a small place up in Northern California. And when I graduated from high school, I wanted to see the world, and I joined the military. I'm a military guy, and you're not going to hear me sit up here and talk like a politician, although I think I do look like a politician. But when I retired from the service, we couldn't wait to get out of California. Those folks are crazy down there. And when we moved up here to Idaho, this is where we call home now. This is where my family and I are proud to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Chuck Stodick, 1 minute.
Thank you, and thank all of you for coming. I've been in Canyon County, Caldwell area since 1977. I worked and retired from the Simplot Company. Started out at Parma in this Adrian area. Moved over to Caldwell as a field department manager and finally raw procurement director for the Simplot Food Division. I think Caldwell's at a crossroads right now relative to success. I want to be a part of that success. If I'm elected to City Council, I'll guarantee you I'll work as hard as I did for the Simplot Company relative to making this thing successful for all of the Caldwellites. I appreciate your vote, and I want to thank everybody for coming and also for all the questions and answers we might have tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, we will now start with the questions, and we will start with the candidates for seat 4, and we will start with Henry Bussey. You'll have a minute and a half to answer the question, and then Shannon Ozuna, you'll have a minute for rebuttal. The question is, do you believe the city of Caldwell is business friendly? Why or why not? Is the city of Caldwell business friendly? Why or why not?
I believe the city of Caldwell should what?
Is business friendly?
Business oriented?
Business friendly, business oriented, business friendly.
They were significantly impediments they offer to businesses with regulatory and taxing. I think they could do a lot better. Another matter they need to worry is the fairground should remain in Caldwell.
Shannon Ozuna, 1 minute.
I feel like the city of Caldwell is quite business friendly. We are very focused right now on doing some revitalization downtown. We're trying to get some things going with the property that was tentatively purchased, where Southwest District Health and Trolley Square currently sit. And we've gone out for RFP, which is request for proposals from a couple different developers, hoping something comes back that brings a new vitality downtown, as well as the plaza that's being considered downtown. I think all those things are going to help bring some more energy downtown, which we used to have a very vibrant downtown, and I think we're on the precipice of being there again.
Okay, the next question will be for the candidates running for seat 5. We'll start with Chris Allgood. You'll have a minute and a half, and then Magda Ruano, you'll have a minute rebuttal. And the second question will come from Scott Logan.
Good evening. Does the city of Caldwell have a crime problem that is out of control? Do you think that the city is responding effectively with adequate policing to ensure public safety?
The city of Caldwell, as any city, does have a crime problem. Crime is a problem, and we should always address it immediately and be right on top of it. Caldwell has done that. We are very aggressive, and we have been very successful with crime. Caldwell is doing exactly what it needs to do to address crime. The mayor and council have been 100% supportive, and as a result, we have been successful in dealing with crime.
Magda Ruano, 1 minute.
I think Caldwell has been, it's perceived, I think, a lot that the problem exists. But I know that the city has worked a lot, that they've done a lot of grants, a lot of task forces that they took on to meet those challenges of those problems, and I think it's handled. I've gone around and I've asked several people in the business area and in other citizens if they feel safe in Caldwell, and I have always gotten the response that yes, they do feel safe in Caldwell. So I think our problem is mostly that people in our surrounding areas haven't quite got the idea that Caldwell is a safe place to live. But I definitely think that we need to keep an eye on it to make sure it stays safe, and of course there's always room for improvement.
Next question will be for the candidates running for seat 6. We'll start with Terrence Biggers. You'll have a minute and a half, and then Mr. Stoddard, you'll have a minute rebuttal. The question is, what are your thoughts on the Roger Brooks rebranding campaign for Caldwell, and what should the city's involvement be in that campaign?
Thank you for the question. When the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce and the city got together and decided to bring Roger Brooks to Caldwell to explain what it is that he does, I was there for that 2-day conference. I listened and I learned and I went, you know what? I bet you this would work for Caldwell. So a small group of us got together and we formed Destination Caldwell. And I've been on the board of directors since its inception. And what we have done is we have raised money to bring Roger Brooks back to work with us, not tell us, but work with us on rebranding Caldwell, which I think is so important. In that, the city has been supportive. I think the city needs to continue to support Destination Caldwell in its efforts for the rebranding because I'm concerned. I'm concerned that our community is not staying here in Caldwell, and we're having an economic leakage of money leaving Caldwell and going to other areas in the Treasure Valley. It's important that we stop that trend so that each of us has some place where we can live, work, and play, keep our Caldwell dollars here, help our economy, reduce our taxes, and I think Destination Caldwell has some great ideas. Thank you.
Mr. Stoddard, you have 1 minute rebuttal.
I agree with Mr. Biggers on the rebranding. Last figures I saw that Caldwell Lights had about $455 million that they could spend somewhere, and only roughly $355 million of those dollars are being spent in Caldwell. So roughly $125 million are going out of the city, and that needs to stop. And whatever we can do to correct that is very important to the future of this town. Thank you.
Next question will be for the candidates in seat 4. We'll start with Shannon Azuna this time. You'll have a minute and a half, and then Mr. Bussey, you'll have a minute rebuttal. And the question will come from Scott Logan.
Do you think the proposed downtown plaza is a good idea for the city? And what should the city's involvement be in this plaza?
I think that the plaza is a very good idea. We just had Dan Steffner from South Dakota come, and he is going to be giving us some plans on how to move forward. They have a very good, very successful plaza in Rapid City, and so he's got a lot of ideas on how we can have a similar experience with a plaza. Can you repeat? Sorry.
Certainly. The question was, what do you think about the idea of the plaza, but also just how involved should the city of Caldwell be in the development of that plaza?
Thank you. We do know that there needs to be a BID formed with the businesses downtown, and they will definitely need to be in some financial way connected with the plaza. We don't really think that we're going to get 50% from the BID, but they need to have some money in the game as well. It's supposed to be kind of a private public venture, and so I think the city may be stepping up more than the BID would, but I think the plaza is going to do so many amazing things for Caldwell that it needs to happen.
Henry Bussey, 1 minute rebuttal. Yes. Sorry, I'll try to speak up. Okay. Okay. You have a 1 minute rebuttal. 1 minute rebuttal.
I think that that's not a win-win deal. I cannot imagine how it can be. Part of the problem downtown currently is inadequate parking, and the cute pedestrian crossings didn't help that problem a bit, and it will only become more acute if this plaza comes to fruition.
Okay, the next question is for seat 5. We'll start with Magda Ruano. Should the city be doing more to revitalize downtown Caldwell? Why or why not?
Definitely, the city does need to be more actively involved. As the destination Caldwell, I think, has been very, very good, and I'm very excited about that because I think it's grassroots at its best. People speaking up and saying what they want, and I think they've addressed that to the city very well. And the city needs to be very much part of this action, and needs to be doing as much as it can to be inviting to businesses to come to Caldwell and be part of our community. I know that it's done a lot to improve its welcoming attitude towards businesses, but I think there's still a perception out there that Caldwell is not receptive to businesses, and I think we still need to work on that.
Chris Allgood, 1 minute.
I believe the city has done a wonderful job so far, and when I say that, I talk about Indian Creek, I talk about the Christmas lights on the creek, I talk about all the new sidewalks and bollards on the street downtown. I am very impressed with what we've been able to do so far, but I do recognize it's just a start. What I want to be careful of is that as the city dedicates finances to improving downtown, that we keep public and private separate. And while I am 100% for the plaza, for the branding and that kind of thing, again, as long as we keep those monies separate, I'm good. Thank you.
Next question is for seat 6, and we will start with Chuck Stoddick, and the question comes from Scott Logan.
This is about your view on the city's property tax levy rate. Do you think it's too high, too low, or just right? What's your take on that?
I think the levy rate is in line, but I think relative to property taxes, they're definitely way too high. I think Caldwell pays more property taxes than even Boise does at the current levels. I believe Parma is second. Eagle is a distant second to last, I believe. So, property taxes are very important, and again, it's kind of tied to one of my platform subjects is urban renewal reform and oversight. I think the public needs to have a lot more input into how these monies are spent relative to city expansion versus what we do now. And I don't know what the benchmark's going to be yet. I think the state legislature is going over that right now to find out what they're going to do to change the urban renewal law. There was some suggestion that $1 million would be the benchmark. In other words, anything over $1 million, the taxpayers would have a vote on it. I think that's way too high because you can do a lot with $1 million. I think it needs to be something substantially less than that. So definitely, I'd like to comment a little bit on the plaza too. I think it's a great idea. I think that should be the #1 item on the list for the city to do. I've had the opportunity to travel to North Dakota and South Dakota while working with the Simplot Company. I've been through the Bakken bust and boom and back to the boom again, and I've seen what they've done, and I think we can follow and have a lead in a lot of good ideas from that area, including the South Dakota Rapid City area.
Terrence Biggers, 1 minute rebuttal.
Would you restate the question, please?
It's about the property tax rate, levy rate. Do you think it's too high, too low, or just right?
Currently, I think the tax levy rate is too high, but I understand why it's as high as it is. And I do not totally agree with Chuck that we are the highest in the Treasure Valley, but we can do better. And the way we do that is by looking at our local economy here. As Caldwell dollars are leaving Caldwell and going to our neighboring cities, you're helping their economy and they can push your levy rate lower. If we can keep the money here in Caldwell, if we can get folks to pull off this interstate every day and stop here in Caldwell and leave their travel dollars here in Caldwell, we can lower the levy rate. There is no question in my mind that we can do this. Thank you.
Next question is for seat 4. We'll start with Henry Bussey.
I really doubt it. I don't know how much they are doing, but I heard tell recently that a few years back, the Fair Board decided they wanted to be out of Caldwell. And if that's still the case, we better put some leverage on the Fair Board to change their point of view. And I think it definitely should be in Caldwell.
Shannon Ozuna, 1 minute.
I definitely think the Canyon County Fair should stay in Caldwell. We are the county seat. Personally, because I've been on council, I know all that we've done to try to keep the fair right here in Caldwell. We recently purchased a fairly large piece of property on the other side of the railroad tracks, right near 21st, and that was for the animals for the rodeo, but it also was for parking for the fair. And I think we've done really quite a bit to keep the fair here. It sounds like, and I know they want to move because they want a big fancy setup just for themselves, but honestly the kind of cost that they have attached to that is just astronomical and shouldn't even be being considered, personally, my thought.
Next question is for seat 5. We'll start with Chris Allgood, and the question comes from Scott Logan.
Do you think the city is doing enough to attract new businesses to Caldwell so that the city residents don't have to go to Nampa or Boise? If so, what are they doing right? If not, what could they do better?
I know the city of Caldwell is working very hard to attract new businesses, and they, for instance, the entrance into Caldwell on Highway 2026, that development alone was done because we want to develop that Sky Ranch area. The state wasn't moving fast enough. The city stepped up and did it on their own ahead of time to keep things moving. I sit in meetings every week where we discuss different things that are going on in the city and bringing businesses to the city. And I can tell you around the room, that is the number one topic, is making it easy for businesses to come to this city. And there's nobody that has any disagreement with that. I believe the city is doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Magda Ruano, 1 minute.
Would you repeat, please?
Certainly. Do you think the city of Caldwell is doing enough to attract new businesses to the city so that residents don't have to go to Nampa or Boise? And if they're not doing a good job, what could they do better? And if they are doing a good job, what exactly are they doing right?
I think one of the things that they're doing right is they have an economic development department that they are building up pretty well, and I've been glad to see that. And so I think they are responsive, that they realize that this is a problem that Caldwell residents would like to see, well, not solved, but at least worked on. And so I think they're going in the right direction, especially right now. There's a lot of energy about this, and so I think that Caldwell is doing a lot to gain this. There's a lot to be said, though, for community involvement. I think the more people that get involved, the more ideas that we can garner, the better that will be, because it definitely will be a community project. We can't expect that the city would do it, the city as an agency would be doing it on its own. Thank you.
Next question is for seat 6. We'll start with Terrence Biggers. Enrollment at the Treasure Valley Community College campus has declined since it opened. Do you think that was a worthy investment for the city of Caldwell? And what should the city do with the downtown campus in the future?
I have a simple answer to that. Justifying something that happened in the past that I had nothing to do with, I think is a little unfair. If I was there, I probably would have not voted for that project. I do not understand why we would use taxpayer dollars on buildings that we cannot receive revenues from. And I'm talking about property taxes. I'm talking about helping you as a property owner and lowering our tax rate or our levy rate, either one, so that you pay less taxes. Now, the enrollment is down. There's no question about that. I don't know if it's really local government responsibility to tell the school what they need to do to increase their enrollment. I wish them well. We have told them that, you know what, you're going to have to do better. And they have put a team together that are taking a look at ways to increase the enrollment over there so that we can keep a happy partnership going on. The asset's already there. I can't erase it. So we need to deal with it from this point forward. Thank you.
Mr. Stoddard, 1 minute.
I totally disagree with that project also. We spent over $10 million on that building, plus another $1 million for furniture. And with CWI in the area and all the BSU extensions, there's no reason why we need to have a project like that that's redundant. And that doesn't mean I'm against education. I just think our dollars were not spent wisely relative to that project, and it was a waste of money. And if I may do a little rebuttal to Mr. Biggers here on the property taxes, this is a graph that was sent out by the Statesman in October. Caldwell has $1,069.17 per 1,000 taxable value less the homeowner's homeowner's assessed value exemption. Boise has only $735. Eagle has only $101.78. So Caldwell is definitely the highest, with Napa second. Thank you.
Next question will be for seat 4, and we'll start with Shannon Azuna. And the question will come from Scott Logan.
How do you think the city should move forward with urban renewal?
Urban renewal has been an excellent tool for the city. I guess when I look at it in big terms, I'm like, where would we be without what it's been able to offer us? I can tell you our population would probably be maybe 25,000. It's allowed us to grow our infrastructure, build the YMCA, which is huge, uncover Indian Creek. We've just used it in really good ways. Now that we're kind of to a different phase because we're not doing new projects, I think urban renewal has the opportunity to kind of focus on the two areas where we would like to see some things happen, like downtown and out at the industrial park. We also have the ability to help businesses downtown through different loans and grants that they can get through urban renewal to beautify their properties. It's taking on a different bent as far as what can be done with it and what we're using it for, but I think it's been very positive for the city of Caldwell.
Mr. Bussey, 1 minute.
From my point of view, the urban renewal has been used significantly as a slush fund to just do with the funds however they choose. I will admit and give them credit for having invested in a lot of sewer lines and water lines and the like of that. That is very appropriate application of that funds. I don't know that this talked about downtown loans and so forth is a really good, appropriate way to go. It no doubt would benefit some.
The next question is for seat 5, and we will start with Magda Ruano. Do you believe the city police department has a good relationship with every segment of the city's population?
I didn't hear.
Do you believe the city police department has a good relationship with every segment of the city's population?
Well, probably not with the crime element, but they. I'm very proud of our police department. I think they've done a fine job. Like we mentioned before, Caldwell has been through some really rocky times, and I think they really stepped up and they really worked hard. And we definitely need to support them a lot, especially in this day and age where there seems to be a really bad trend right now towards our police department. I really would like to see us be more vocal in our support of the police department so that every element of their community is supportive and is understanding of how crucial those services are to us. I was very pleased to see recently when the West Valley Medical did a free breakfast for them, and it's things like that show really just support of the police department, and we need more of that, and I think we need more of it from the community. So I think that they do have a good rapport.
It's all good. 1 minute.
Oh, can I just say what she said? I am very proud of the relationship that the police department has with the city, and the police department is the city. We are the people that live here. I mean, I've lived here my whole career. In my mind, there's not a separation. We work together towards a better community and a safer community, and it's not us or them, it's just us making a good place to live. If there is a disconnect, then it's the police department's responsibility along with the community to fix it, because there should not be. We're all one big community moving in the same direction, and I firmly believe that.
Next question for seat 6, and we'll start with Mr. Stoddick, and the question will come from Scott Logan.
We're going back to the plaza, the downtown plaza concept, and we want to know what you think about that. Is it a good idea for the city, and what should the city's involvement in that effort be?
I think it is an excellent idea for the city after looking at what happened in Rapid City, South Dakota, and up at Williston, North Dakota, and what they had to do. They had enormous step to pull themselves up with relative to the oil boom in North Dakota, not necessarily South Dakota. I think the city's idea of putting together a committee to look at this and had Mr. Steffner come in. And by the way, I did do some background checking with Mr. Steffner to see if he was good or bad for us, and everything that came back from North and South Dakota was positive. So I think he's a good man. I think the only thing that's lacking now is we need to move forward this project, and I think it should be the #1 item on the docket of the city of Caldwell right now, instead of either buying other property or investing in other property, because we have to have something for people here to come to get entertained, to have a good experience with restaurants, and that plaza will help that situation. I know there's a lot of people that are complaining about we won't have enough parking, but if you look at the Rapid City complex, the plaza they built, there's people that'll walk 7 and 8 blocks just to get to that the plaza to be entertained. And I don't know if you folks have seen the plans of it yet, but they had a great presentation here the other night at Indian Creek Steakhouse. So it's an excellent project. It should be #1 on the docket. Thank you.
Terrence Biggers, 1 minute.
When you take a look at strong communities have a central gathering place. The city has strived to do that. We do movie in the parks, we have music in the parks, and I think we can do better. So the idea came up, why don't we do a plaza? And I was for it. We need to move forward on this and get this plaza going. We need to give a reason for our community to come downtown and find out who each other are, and this is our community. That's important to me, that my kids and my family have someplace to go. The city's involvement in that so far up to this point has been good. Not only did we hire Dan to come down here and have him open up his books to us to show us the lessons he had to learn so we don't have to repeat the mistakes they did, is so valuable. And I want this project to move forward. Thank you.
Next question is for seat 4. We'll start with Henry Bussey. Hold on. Is the city's property tax levy rate too high, too low, or just right?
To paraphrase Winston Churchill from 75 years ago, he was talking about the RAF and the citizens. Seldom have so many owed so much to so few. Now, we owe credit to the city council and the mayor for an exceedingly high tax rate. I have sat through a few budget hearings and I was disappointed. Anyhow, from my point of view, we pay too much taxes. Thank you.
Shannon Ozuna, 1 minute.
I believe that our tax levy rate is too high. Part of the reason for that is because we don't have as much commercial development as we need. As we develop more commercially, it's going to drop the levy rate for all entities. We've been growing as a bedroom type community, and we really need to grow as a city, and that will help lower our tax rate over time.
The next question will be for seat 5, and we will start with Chris Allgood, and the question comes from Scott Logan.
We're curious about your views on urban renewal. How should the city move forward with that? What's your take on it?
I believe that urban renewal definitely has a purpose. I believe that urban renewal should be used on ventures that return value and return tax dollars to the city, so that one of the problems with the city that causes our levy rate to be so high is our property values are too low. And we need to do things in the city to increase the value of the property we own so that the levy rate will go down. And I believe the urban renewal can be used as a tool to accomplish that.
Magda Ruano, 1 minute.
I recognize that urban renewal is a really hot topic right now, and it's It's been a good tool, though. I think if we look at the improvements that have happened through urban renewal, they have made our city look better. The infrastructure has been expanded, and it's been a good tool. I know that there's been discontent in how some of those things have come about, and maybe they could have done better. And it's always good to question ourselves. I think anyone and cities make mistakes when we stop questioning ourselves. And so it's good that there's been all this discussion, and I know that the legislative is looking at making this better. So I really feel like we need to learn from our mistakes and go on. We definitely don't want to be focused on this issue and miss the opportunities right now that we can have if we just keep on so focused on the things of the past. So I say let's learn from our mistakes and go forward.
Next question is for seat 6, and we'll start with Terrence Biggers. Do you believe the Canyon County Fair should remain in Caldwell? And if so, do you believe the city is doing enough to make that happen?
Canyon County Fair has been a hot topic here. I love the Canyon County Fair. I love it being here in Caldwell. Caldwell has been over backwards to help the Fair Board have successful fairs. We do not charge them rent. We don't even charge them for the cleanup. We don't charge them for the electricity that they used, for the garbage that needs to be hauled out. We have bought additional land and showed them you can expand right here. The idea of building a $40 million complex out in the middle of nowhere where there's no infrastructure just does not make sense to me. Not when we have it right here in Caldwell. So I think the Canyon County Fair needs to stay here, and we need to support the Canyon County Fair here as well. But I do not support the Canyon County Fair leaving Caldwell. That just does not make sense. Thank you.
Mr. Stoddard, 1 minute.
I agree with Mr. Biggers. It should stay in Caldwell. I think there needs to be more accountability on the Fair Board relative to either the city or the county commissioners, because, you know, they've run that board without any accountability whatsoever for the last couple of years, and that needs to stop, and they need to be accountable to somebody for their actions.
The next question is for the candidates in seat 4. We'll start with Shannon Ozuna, and the question will come from Scott Logan.
Do you think it's wise to build public buildings which do not generate property tax revenue within urban renewal district boundaries? Why or why not? Do you think it's wise to build public buildings which do not generate property tax revenue within urban renewal district boundaries, within the boundaries of the urban renewal district?
I guess I think that building public buildings within the urban renewal district, even though they don't create property tax, is a good idea depending on what the building is. We really could use a new city hall. I think that would be an appropriate place for it downtown, and unfortunately that is the boundaries of our urban renewal is downtown. So in that instance, I think, but maybe a building like that downtown would need to go to the vote of the people, because that's something that could definitely be considered controversial. Yeah.
Henry Bussey, 1 minute.
I think that the expenditure of urban renewal funds for municipal buildings is out of line. It should not go that way. That doesn't contribute to tax base. And we've got several buildings in downtown Caldwell I refer to as Caldwell's Taj Mahal.
Next question is for seat 5, and we'll start with Magda Ruano. Do you think the current Caldwell City Council adequately represents the city's ethnic and gender diversity, and should it?
I'm glad that I got that question. No, I do not. I don't feel that the current council represents, especially the Latino community, which is now at 34%. That's one of the reasons why I am running. When I was working at the city, I always noticed that was a great lack. And it's two-sided because on one side they're not represented, the people are not represented, and they are also not participating. The Latino population are not very represented. If you look in this crowd, you can see there's not too many. That's one of the reasons why I'm running, because I definitely want to change that. I want to see the council be more reflective of the people that make up the community of Caldwell.
Chris Allgood, 1 minute.
I believe it is extremely important that the city council represents everybody within the city, no matter where they're from or who they represent. I believe that it can be done by anybody who's willing to do that. I agree with Ms. Ruano that our Hispanic population is large and growing, and they do need representation. And when the council makes decisions, everybody's thoughts, no matter who they may be, should be considered in those decisions.
Next question is for seat 6, and we will start with Mr. Stoddick, and the question comes from Scott Logan.
Well, this is one we've asked other members of this panel, but it's all about business. It seems we're talking a lot about. And so the question is the city of Caldwell business friendly? If so, how? And if not, how can it be better?
I think it is business friendly, although I think that the urban renewal committee, before it was awarded to the council, has spent money on the wrong items. For instance, you asked a question about whether we should spend that money on government buildings. Government buildings do not produce a tax base for our residents, and that raises our taxes. And if you look at the Idaho Code, Title 50, Chapter 20, I believe it is, for how you spent urban renewal money, public buildings are not included in that definition. So I think that that needs to be changed. How we reform that, I don't know, because what has then been on the docket, I think goes to 2020, if I'm not mistaken now. After that, we have a say in it, but we do need to change some of those expenditures that urban renewal monies are spent on now, because if we don't broaden our tax base in this city, your property taxes are going to continue to go up, and that's not right, because again, we are the #1 property tax city within the Treasure Valley.
Terrence Biggers, 1 minute.
Are we business friendly? Every city would like to think they're business friendly. I would like to think we're business friendly, but I've heard we've had problems in the past, and even we have problems now. I've gone around and talked to some of our businesses on what we can do to make the environment better. How do we help the business person? I think the plaza is key in this. If we can get our community to go to the downtown area, to activities to bring families together and shop, more businesses are going to want to move in here. But I'm also concerned the fact that how are we treating these businesses when they show up? I think we can do better. I plan on doing that. Thank you.
Next question is for seat 4. We'll start with Henry Bussey. Question is, do you think the city's police staffing is adequate at its current levels?
I have not given that any thought. It isn't obvious that it's overboard or understaffed, so I don't have any more take. They've been doing a pretty good job. No more to add.
Shannon Ozuna, 1 minute.
With the police department, funding is based on what's available in the general fund. And I know that we have positions that have not been filled because their budget is so tight that kind of have to give somewhere. we do an excellent job as a police department with the staff that we have, but I do know that more people, more boots on the ground would probably help the police chief do his job better.
Next question is for seat 5, and we'll start with Chris Allgood, and the question will come from Scott Logan.
Well, this is one that's been asked to other members of the panels, but we're curious on your assessment of the investment by the city in the downtown Treasure Valley Community College campus. Was that a wise decision? What should the city do with the downtown campus in the future?
The investment in the Treasure Valley Community College was something that was done outside of my realm. I do not have a lot of information on it. My opinion is very close to what Councilman Biggers said. I can't tell you whether it was a good investment then. It's here now, and we need to make proper decisions to make it viable for the future. I'm not sure why enrollment is down, but if there's something the city can do, we need to do it because it's here, and we need to make a positive out of that.
Magda Ruano, 1 minute.
When you remember what that area looked like before, I think it's a vast improvement. That building is a beautiful building. It just really complements the area there. And I also think you can never go wrong when you invest in education. I think as we try to attract new businesses to Caldwell, when new businesses come, they want to see what do we have available for their employees, for their families that are going to come. And when they see that we have a four-year college and we have a community college as well, I think that can only put us up a level in their estimation as to what we as a community value. So I think it was a good thing that it came.
Next question is for seat 6, and we'll start with Terrence Biggers. Do you believe that the Caldwell East Urban Renewal Agency's funding of an improvement project at Caldwell High School is an appropriate use of urban renewal money? Why or why not?
I did support that, and I'm going to tell you why. When we have manufacturing companies come here to look to relocate, they ask certain things of us. They want to see the site they're going to put their building on. They want to take a look at our levy rate. They want to take a look at our downtown. And they want to take a look at our schools. We need to stay competitive here, because I don't want the executives of this business that is relocating here to go to Meridian or Boise. We need to raise our medium income, family income here, right here in Caldwell. We need to be competitive. There are schools in Meridian, high schools, that students can go to, and they almost have their LPN when they graduate out of high school. People are looking for programs. People are looking for schools. I am concerned about our neighborhoods, our traditional neighborhoods around here. Valley View's getting ready to build a brand new school. We need to stay competitive. We need to take care of our schools. We're not putting up a new building. We need to support them the best that we can within the confines of the law. Thank you.
Mr. Stoddard, 1 minute.
I disagree with Mr. Biggers. What benefit does it serve the whole community with having a weight room here? To me, it's none at all. The only one it benefits is actually the school itself. And we have other facilities in the city that have the same type of equipment that those folks can use. Again, this type of spending our taxpayer money on these types of items is totally outside the Title 15, Chapter 25 of how to spend urban renewal money. It should be money spent on increasing business environments in the city, bringing people in to spend their money, not on weight rooms. So I totally disagree with that.
The next question is for seat 4, and we'll start with Shannon Ozuna, and the question comes from Scott Logan.
The rebranding campaign for Caldwell, we want to know what your thoughts are about that. What should the city's involvement be? And a member of the audience also wanted to know if anybody has an idea of how much money the city might have paid for Roger Brooks for his presentation and his participation here?
I think the rebranding effort is a good thing for Caldwell. I think it is going to kind of unite different groups within the city and bring more visitors. That's kind of the plan. It also helps give the businesses downtown kind of a term that they can hang their hat on. I'm trying to remember what we paid first.
Knows.
Good.
Did you want to cede your time to Mr. Biggers to answer that question?
I don't know if I can do that.
Sure.
Do tell.
After Roger Brooks was here, it was a partnership between the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce and the City of Caldwell. We brought him here. When we formed our board of directors, we decided to bring him back. We went into fundraising mode. The city assisted in putting some funds in there, $10,000. The Chamber of Commerce helped. But most of the money was by donations. It was private money coming in to bring Roger Brooks back to show us what he does best. And I am grateful that we've been able to do that. By the way, it was $85,000. Thank you.
So to clarify, the city paid $10,000 to bring Roger Brooks in.
Yes, they did. The rest of the money, like I said, was private funds, and I'm really confident that with the information that we have gathered, it's going to help our downtown, and it's going to help our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bussey, 1 minute.
I have initially a very tongue-in-cheek response on rebranding. We could do it Park City, Idaho. I understand we have more acres per capita than any other town in Idaho. Might do a good thing, I don't know.
Next question is for seat 5. We'll start with Magda Ruano. Do you think the proposed downtown plaza is a good idea for the city, and what should the city's involvement be in that effort?
I'm liking the idea of the plaza. I think I'm probably 70% there to say that it's a go. In my opinion, but I think there's hard questions that still need to be answered. There's definitely cost constraints. There's all sorts of things that we have to consider. Even just when you bring in 1,000 people to downtown on any given night, I think that's going to affect our police department. What's that going to do to our staffing needs? What's that going to do to cleanup costs and even utilities? I think that was one of the things that was mentioned too. There's a lot of hard questions that need to be answered. But all in all, sometimes we just, as a community, we just need to bite the bullet and do something that will change downtown. Those of us who were old timers remember what town was when there was still people would mill around town and go in. I was a little girl and I remember Caldwell when I would go shopping there with my mom, and it was an enjoyable experience. I think probably half the people here probably don't remember that, and it's sad when a lot of people don't enjoy going to downtown. So I definitely think that it's a very good idea. It's energy in the right direction, and the city does need to be involved, as do other agencies, the chamber, any other organizations that consider Caldwell their home. We all need to be involved and to make something happen, because it's past time for downtown to get better.
Chris Allgood, 1 minute.
I completely agree with the plaza. I feel that we need to create reasons for people to come here instead of creating reasons for people to leave here. We've done some things, turned Indian Creek into a park. Just look at C of I football. how much that has, just that one thing that we've created, how much activity that has brought to our city in just 2 years. And we do something like the plaza. They're talking about having programming 200 days a year in that plaza. I don't see a downside to that. I am confident the city's investment up front will be probably significant, but my hope would be that as it goes, it turns into a private situation where the city does not have to keep funding it continually.
Next question is for seat 6, and we'll start with Mr. Stoddick, and the question comes from Scott Logan.
Well, this, again, is about revitalization of downtown Caldwell. A lot of the people in the audience are sending cards up. One says, Caldwell citizens are starved for retail shopping. So what can be done to revitalize downtown Caldwell?
Well, I think a lot of the questions have probably been answered already, but again, I think the Plaza project is part of that revitalization. And we have to learn how to develop business down here where people will stay, as Mr. Bigger said, and spend their money here. I think some of these businesses are going to be niche market businesses. For instance, look how many people go from the Treasure Valley or Caldwell, Napa up to Trader Joe's in Boise. Why not have one down here? I bet we would have just as much business down here as Boise has, because a lot of people go to a niche marketplace. But I think we need the types of businesses that people will stay in Caldwell and not have to go to Boise or any other place to spend their money. And that will be a successful blueprint for the city for the future.
Terrence Biggers, 1 minute.
Can I have you restate the question, please?
Certainly. It has to do with the revitalization of downtown Caldwell. Many of the cards I'm getting from the audience, one person says that the residents are starving for retail shopping downtown. So how do we revitalize downtown?
I totally agree. I have walked the downtown many, many times. If you wanted to go buy a pair of socks, where would you go to do that? A pair of shoes. We don't have the retail businesses downtown that we need. But if we can't get our residents to our own downtown, we will continue to suffer. I believe that once we get our community used to going to the downtown, business will take off. Take a look at Indian Creek for the Winter Wonderland. There are so many folks that are down there, so many food vendors that are down there. Shops are open and people are going in and out of those shops. We need to give you a reason to go downtown and shop. I believe we can do that. Thank you.
Okay, we will now move into the lightning round. We'll ask a question of all of the candidates and go down the row, and you'll each have 1 minute to answer the same question. And we're going to start with Mr. Bussey. Question is, currently a fair number of downtown buildings are owned by the city. Do you have thoughts about getting these buildings out of the possession of the city and into private ownership? Currently a fair number of downtown buildings are owned by the city. Do you have thoughts about getting these buildings out of the possession of the city and into private ownership?
I have no thoughts on how it should be accomplished, but it definitely needs to be accomplished, and it probably shouldn't have arrived at that point. So I'm not a real estate developer. Don't have much idea on that.
Shannon Ozuna, 1 minute.
I think as we start moving towards having more possibilities downtown, with potentially what's going to go on the Southwest District Health site and the potential for our new plaza, you will start to see developers want to purchase property. I think that's when these properties will fall into the hands of a developer of some kind, and they will then no longer be a city building, and they will be hopefully used for an awesome commercial use.
Chris Allgood, 1 minute.
I think we should remember when we look at what we have downtown where we started, and I'm not talking 50 years ago, I'm talking 10 years ago, 12 years ago, downtown was much, much worse than it is now. We're seeing better now than we did then. The buildings that the city owns, it would be my hope that those buildings are only owned to move to private property, back into private ownership. I don't see the need for the city to own those buildings long-term for any reason.
Magda Ruano, 1 minute.
There was a purpose and a strategy for when those properties were purchased, and but definitely I don't see that the role of the city should be as a property owner in that sense of the word, or landlord in any way. I think once developers show up or business owners who would want to establish their business in Caldwell, definitely those properties should leave the city's hands.
Terrence Biggers, 1 minute.
Actually, I agree with all their statements up to this point. Local government here shouldn't be in the business of owning buildings that we do not need to conduct government business. Those buildings need to be turned over. But I will tell you, we need to have some type of action happening, because I believe that once things start happening downtown, all the pieces are going to start to fall in place. Somebody's got to make that move. I believe that what we're doing is correct. I believe that it will help us as a community. And my ultimate goal is to reduce your property taxes, because I'm a taxpayer as well. Thank you.
Chuck Stoddard, 1 minute.
I agree with most of the statements. I think that last time I looked, the city owned over 400 parcels, and that's plumb ridiculous. I mean, they don't generate any tax base for the taxpayer to reduce our taxes. And whether we have to sell the buildings at a reduced cost, sell them to a developer for $1, or donate them to a developer, I think we need to get those developers in here, give the city council some plans that they can look at. If it's advantageous for all of Caldwell, then make a deal with them and get them back on the tax base. That's what we need in the city.
All right, we'll do one more lightning round question, and it will come from Scott Logan, and we will start with Shannon Ozuna and work back to Mr. Bessie.
If you were king or queen for one day, what is the one thing you would change about the city of Caldwell?
Well, if I were queen for a day, I would be rich. And I would give all that money to the city of Caldwell. And we would have the most amazing downtown and industrial park ever.
Chris Allgood, 1 minute.
If I were king for a day, I think I would have people see Caldwell the way I see Caldwell. Caldwell has had a bad reputation, a bad perception, but I don't see that. It's been home all my life. And I would just want people to see what I see.
Magda Ruano, 1 minute.
I would ask people to see their potential. Just for one day, think of nothing but potential for themselves, for their community, and just so many times obstacles hold us back when we look at the challenges and things, and we permit those things to hold us back. And so for one day, I would say just look at the potential, and then later we can address the challenges. Thank you.
King for a day. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that.
Pleasure.
I think Caldwell needs some changes, and I'd make those changes to put us back on the map so that we could be a proud community like you once were. I want people traveling up and down this interstate here to see us and not ignore us and drive right by us. I want them to stop here and enjoy what we have to offer. We have some things to offer now. There's no question about that. But I would definitely offer a lot more than what we have if I was king for a day. Thank you.
Mr. Stoddard, 1 minute.
I don't think there's much more to say. I agree with all the above. I think we can make this city a very good business-friendly city that our people here in Caldwell would love to come to shop, buy merchandise, go to restaurants. I think it would be a city that would attract folks from other cities like Napa, Eagle, and Boise. And if we had our druthers and a lot of money, we could fix it in a hurry. But with time constraints and laws that we have on the books now, it'll take a little time. But this thing isn't going to happen overnight. But all these folks here have a lot of good ideas.
Mr. Bussey, 1 minute.
Prior to this question, I was just thinking, wow, Vicki Holbrook wasn't here today to ask about what would you do if you had a magic wand? Ha! Well, good question. We should ask the mayor how his magic wand has done well for Caldwell.
All right, we will now go into closing statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for a closing statement, and we are going to go from right to left, and we will start with Mr. Stoddick.
I think some of you have seen my agenda. I've got about 4 items that I'd like to concentrate on if elected. Urban renewal is one of them. I think we need some reform there and oversight. Somebody's got to be accountable for the way they spend our taxpayers' money. We need responsible redevelopment for the downtown area. I think the Plaza project is one of those good projects that will bring the city to fruition as far as attracting people in here. I think we as taxpayers need a better voice in money spent, whether it's by the city, county, or whoever. We don't have a lot of representation right now, especially when it comes to urban renewal money. You don't have any representation. That kind of thing has to stop. And I think that we need to expand our core businesses in this area, and those being agriculture, the services, and our education. We have all good bases to start from that can be a benefit to this community. I think we need to concentrate on that. And while you look at the council and decide on which person you want in which seat, I think you need to consider 2 items. One is stewardship. How will that particular person take care and steward the money that you give him to spend on certain projects? How will you spend it? Will he have you in mind or not? The other one is discernment. Does that person have good judgment? Does he have insight? Does he have good perception on how to spend that money and how to operate the city? Those are 2 important items that you need to keep in mind. And one last item I think that we need to do is, I don't see a lot of cooperation with other business entities within our city, especially county commissioners. I think we need a lot more interaction and communication with the county. I've talked to some of the commissioners, I've talked to the county clerk, and I think they're dying for some communication with the city, and so are we, because I think there's a lot of synergies that we can work off of, both from the county and the city aspect, that'll improve this environment in the city of Caldwell. Thank you.
Terrence Biggers, 3 minutes.
I've been on city council for only 3 years, and boy, let me tell you what an education I got. You just cannot get this kind of education in a school. When you live it and breathe it every day, it's got a life of its own. But I keep something in the back of my mind every day, and it is this. I remember who I work for, and I remember who works for me. I work for you. I do not work for City Hall. I don't work for the mayor. I work for you. I believe in transparency. An amazing thing, all of our meetings are open meetings. Anybody can come down to any of our meetings, and you have a voice. The mayor gives you an opportunity to stand up so that you can state your opinion. City council listens, and the mayor listens. We have a lot going for us, but we can do better. As I go around in our community talking to folks in our community about what can be done, I listen. And then I try to figure out how to get that done in the most effective way. Now, I'm a military guy. I'm a retired Air Force aviator, and I knew nothing about city government when I got started. But I got a pretty good brain on my shoulders here. I take a look at what is important, because it's important to me. The reason I do what I do is because I have kids, and I now have a granddaughter. And I want them to live, work, and play right here. I don't want them leaving. I want them close by. I want to be able to offer them opportunities that we don't currently have. And I think we can do that. I've been working hard at that. Unfortunately, the process is kind of slow. City Council only meets twice a month. There's a process that we have to go through. But I can tell you that I have been working, I have been listening, and I want a community that we can be proud of. I want Caldwell back on the map just as much as all of you. After tonight, I will stay around. If you have questions or you have ideas, I'm approachable. I will listen. I'm running for re-election. Thank you.
Magda Ruano, 3 minutes.
I want to thank the Press Tribune and KBOI for allowing us this opportunity to address you as a crowd. I'm running for City Council for 2 reasons. One of them is that I think that my background, my experience, my education will be useful for the City Council at this moment. I think the city is at a crucial crossroads right now. The decisions we make today and then in the next couple of months are going to be very important for the future of Caldwell, for our children, our grandchildren. And we've been at critical moments before and things haven't happened. I want to be able to say that I did my part. I did what I could do to make Caldwell better, and I know many of you do too, or you wouldn't be here. So I want to make sure that the City Council has the tools that it needs, the people that needs to come together to make the good decisions that will make Caldwell move forward. So that's one of the reasons why I'm running for City Council. The second reason I stated before is that I really see a need for the council to be representative of the community that lives here in Caldwell. And so Caldwell has about approximately 34% Latino population, and they are not represented on the council, and nor do they participate. I am sad to say that I see very low participation of the people that are of Latino descent. And so I have been talking to them about that lately, and I want to continue talking to them about that, about they need to be involved, they need to speak up, they need to be part of this community. They live here, they want to see Caldwell progress just as much as you do, they need to step up. So that's my second reason for running for council. People who know me would tell you that I'm hardworking, I'm passionate, I'm honest, and I believe in integrity and respect and accountability. And I'm eager to serve my community. I'm eager to serve the council, and I love Caldwell, and I just know I see great potential in Caldwell. And so I talked about how I used to see the downtown. It wasn't thriving by any means, but there was at least activity, and I know we can do so much better than that. We're right here in the entry from coming from Oregon. That entry point is so. It's such a poor entry point for the city. You know, as you come in, you don't really see much. You hardly even see that there's a town. And so I think that could be stepped up a little bit. Why can't we work on working on that? Where we could get the traveling dollars that we're talking about that go right past us and go into Boise. So I think there's definite room for improvement, and I would think it an honor and a privilege to serve as a representative for the city of Caldwell, and I hope you would vote for me. Thank you.
Chris Allgood, 3 minutes.
First of all, I want to say thank you to the Idaho Press Tribune, Channel 2, the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce, and Caldwell High School. Caldwell is on its way to very big things. We just hit 50,000, which was a big mark for us. We are going in the right direction. I agree with many that have said we have some issues that need to be dealt with. I understand that, but I don't want those to stop us or slow us down. Let's figure out what those issues are, deal with them, and keep moving forward. 15, 20 years ago, when I was doing police work on the street, I literally would go from shooting to shooting. We had people killing each other in the middle of the day in this city. And it was an extremely violent place. Today, we don't have anything. It's all, as far as police work goes, it's almost boring, which is a really wonderful thing. Do you see graffiti and stuff around anymore? We have transformed this city, and I really believe that this group here in this room can make the difference that keeps moving this city forward. My goal is to make this city vibrant, to have people coming here to spend their money, not going elsewhere, and for people to be here with their families, downtown, wherever it might be. We talk a lot about bringing big business to Caldwell, and I fully support that. But Caldwell was made on businesses like Pennywise, Rostock Furniture, Higer Plumbing, and I don't for a minute want to forget those mom and pop operations and those family-owned companies that made this city what it is. I feel very privileged to be up here, be considered for this position. I want to tell you that I feel what I bring to the table is experience and the ability to lead. I have worked very hard in my part of the city to make things better. And I feel like that has been my privilege. And I believe I have the skills and the education to continue that in this city. And it would be my honor if I had the opportunity to do that. One of the things that's very important to all of us is please get everybody you can talk to out to vote. I realize this is a very small election, but it's still as important as any other. And we need people out to vote. Thank you.
Shannon Ozuna, 3 minutes.
The reason I ran for council back in 1997 was I was really tired of the negative press that we were receiving at the time. And a lot of it had to do with our crime rate. That has obviously diminished a lot. And honestly, as we've met the 50,000 mark as far as our population goes, we are going to have businesses looking at us that never would have before. They need to see you get to that point before they'll consider moving to your location. I don't want to miss the opportunity to watch these next steps happen because this is what I've been waiting for. I mean, I knew we had the potential, but we're there. I really think the things that are happening downtown right now are going to be amazing. I think it's going to help the businesses that are currently there. They may have to change their hours a little and stay open a little longer so that they get the traffic through them that they haven't been getting, and people will be down there at a later time. I just really am passionate about where we're going, and I want to be a part of that. And I would appreciate your vote on November 3rd.
Henry Bussey, 3 minutes.
Several have expressed the need to have bigger businesses and manufacturing. And part of why they want that is they say, to lower the tax rate for everyone else. That strikes me, if you look at it, as a disincentive to move to Caldwell, to help the locals have a better tax base. Maybe I misunderstood that, but that's the message I hear. I think perhaps it might do well to have people from the Chamber of Commerce, rather than the city government, ask some of those businesses about whom I have read recently that are moving to Nampa or have moved, and find out what kind of incentives or disincentives they perceived for Caldwell or for Nampa in that case. Anyhow, I hope I can be an advocate for businesses and taxpayers, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you all for coming. Look for the Idaho Press Tribune's Voters Guide in this Sunday's edition of the Idaho Press Tribune. In addition, full answers to more questions, more information about the candidates, and the candidates' recorded opening statements will be online at idahopress.com. Tonight's complete form will also be available for viewing at any time at kboi2.com and at idahopress.com. I want to thank the Caldwell Chamber of Commerce and the Nampa Chamber of Commerce, along with our media partner, KBOI TV, for helping put on this forum. And I want to thank you all for attending and informing yourselves as voters. And I especially want to thank the candidates for running and for serving. It's not easy. And, you know, you guys are just a phenomenal group of people. You're going to be in for a difficult decision, I think, but it's really great to see some really smart people running for office. It's very encouraging. The rest is up to you to vote. Get out and vote on November 3rd. Thank you and good night.